should check the tires on it because it's been a while. So check those. Just a few pounds in front and rear. I'd say it's pretty good for sitting as long as it has, and as cold as it has gotten. I'd say the valve stems are holding pretty good. It was tough finding this valve stem for a 91 Dynaglide. At least it was tough for the dealership that changed the tire for me. Took them 3 weeks to get it, but I was able to find it in a day. After the bike sat for 2 weeks, or I should say the wheel, because I took the wheel in and didn't take the whole bike in. But it sat there for, I don't know, it was a week and a half, and I didn't hear nothing, so I thought I'd give them a call. Said they were waiting for a valve stem because Harley doesn't make it anymore. Had to get it from some aftermarket. This is going to be a little colder yet, so I better zip up all the way. Good old 91 Dynaglide, Sturgis. I'm a little on the fence about buying this bike. It's cool. You know, it's the Sturgis model, so it's got a little something special about it. And it's in excellent shape. Runs great, shifts great, rides great. Actually rides really nice. It's just a little weird. Oop. That's one of the weird parts. The gear ratios are like my little Sportster 883, but it's got power of a bigger V-twin. I think it's an 80 cubic inch, which I believe is like 1320 cc's or something like that. But you know, it's got a lot of nice low end torque. It's got a good sound to it. It's weird because it's got the narrower front end like a Sportster, so got the smaller forks. Handlebars are, feel like Sportster handlebars are real narrow, low. You really feel like you're sitting on top. Like you're sitting on top of the bike, you know, instead of down in it. I kind of like having my arms up a little, like on my little Sportster. But that's a good bike though. I'd love to find a home for it in a museum somewhere. I know it's nothing that old, but you know, the Milwaukee Museum, they have one in there, so it's museum worthy because of the story. But the museum, probably the biggest museum closest to us, the one from Anamosa, Iowa, what is it? National Bike Museum or National Motorcycle Museum, whatever, that closed up now, so what's that thing? Oh, what a good old bike. $14,600 miles. I want to say I took a picture of how many miles were on it when I bought it. It's like 13,800 something, so I didn't quite put 1,000 miles on it, I don't believe. I have to look back at my pictures, but it's been good miles. It's never you know, for sitting for 20 years, just going through it, new plugs, wires, fluids, tires, some wheel bearings. I think I put wheel bearings in one of them. When I took the wheels off, I took them into the dealership and said put new tires on it, check the bearings and all that stuff. I just let them do it. And I want to say they replaced some wheel bearings on one of them. I can't remember, but I developed one little oil leak on the bottom of the push rod, that housing, not a tappet, the lifter keeper. I don't know, I forget what they call it, but anyway, that gasket under there, it started to leak a little, but I think it had leaked 20 years ago, because when I got the bike it was a little dirty and it was really had that oily grime right back by that cover and kind of down that side of the engine. It just had that oily residue on it. And when I was cleaning the bike up, I took a pressure washer and I pressure washed all that off and polished up the engine and stuff like that. So it's kind of keeping an eye on it, and it always looked like, yeah, maybe a little wicking going on there, and then all of a sudden one day it just it's like the gasket just gave up, and once it came out quick. There's a parade today at 4 o'clock. It came out pretty fast, so it really wasn't a tough job to change that. I mean, yeah, you gotta take the rocker box cover off and the push rod out and all that stuff, but that stuff is so easy on a Harley. Super easy. It's already starting to get a little cloudy out. Spirit of Oconomowoc. United we stand. So I started watching this new YouTuber, but she isn't new to the motorcycle world by any means. Axle Company, I think is the name of her company. She makes gloves and apparel, mostly No, the gloves are unisex, they'll go either way, but her shirts are mostly for women. I like them. They got some cool sayings on there. I like it when the women are, you know, involved in motorcycling. I think that's great. I don't have any issues with it whatsoever. Some guys like, a women ride. Who cares? Who cares? Who cares if it's women riding? I don't care. I don't care at all. I'm glad to see people get out and enjoy it. Get out and have some fun. Get out and see the world. But anyway, off topic. She started a new channel. She's riding around her choppers. Gives me some inspiration. Makes me want to take my little 883 and do something with it, but I just don't know if I can chop it up yet. It's really good shape. You know, it's in great shape. I would love to find an old, decrepit old Sportster that's been sitting outside and neglected, and take something like that and revive it, give it new life, and give it something cool to look at, you know. But I don't know. I got too much already wrapped up into my Sporty, with the paint and new wheels and suspension and bars, seat, signal lights. Golly, I did a lot of stuff to that bike. I kind of hate to just undo it all. If I was to do anything to that little bike, it would be put a 19-inch wheel on the back, sort of do like a street tracker look to it. And I do that for two reasons. One, I like the look of it, but two, I'd like to actually get the suspension up a little bit in the back. I lowered it overall. I lowered it 1 inch front and rear, and that 1 inch on a bike that already rides low really made it ride low. And it's nice. I did it kind of for the looks, and also in case my wife wanted to ride it. She's kind of shorter, and it fits her really well. But it really makes it ride rough. And you hit the bumps and you hang on. It's like riding an old snowmobile or something. But I like the look of it as it is. But that 19-inch wheel would require a taller suspension. Would give me a little better ride probably. But anyway, she rides I think she has like 3 different choppers and like 10 different bikes altogether. And I don't know, it looks, some of the stuff she's got looks pretty cool. Like the one she bought in San Diego. That one looks really cool. But I have questions about running a rigid frame that I just don't know about yet. Being in Wisconsin, it's not like being in California. Wisconsin, these roads are horrible. They take a beating just from the weather, you know, between the cold and the hot summer. These roads are always buckling and shifting and braking, and so I'm a little leery about going with a completely rigid frame, because there's some pretty bad bumps on these roads. I would think with a rigid, one, about break your back, but two, what kind of abuse is that going to give that frame? It's got to take all of the beatings. So anyway, we're back here, Wisconsin Harley. Get the mileage checked in. I think I got to grab some oil for this one and the Sporty. I like to give them clean oil before they go to bed. Ugh. Not much. How are you? Good.
Feeling super.
All right. Got the mileage turned in for that one, and my backpack is full of oil and filter. Let's take the back way home. A little bit, but it's worth it. So far. Oil's nice and warm, so I think I'm going to do a quick oil change on there. I topped off the tank, so I think I also may put some stabilizer in there and get it ready to sit for the winter. We're almost to November, which is pretty good, still riding. I probably won't ride this one much anymore. If I do, it's probably going to be the Sportster. I may even look at putting away the Street Glide for the year. Mileage is turned in on all three, and yeah, it's been a good year. I know everybody's got their own way of doing oil changes, but I'll show you how I do mine. And I poke a little hole right in the bottom of that oil filter. And I'll just let that drain for a bit. Now I just let that oil drain for a little bit. A lot of times I'll even ask, you can ask your dentist. Sometimes they have some old dental picks that are no longer usable. And they'll just give them to you. Otherwise, just find a pick at the hardware store, tool shop, or whatever. And I'll just pick that O-ring right off. And whoop! Thing took off. All right, and I'll take the new one and roll it right on. I always replace these O-rings every oil change. I know some people don't, but for like the 30 cents or whatever it costs, why not? It takes that long, and now you got a new O-ring on there. It's not hard. It's not taking a set. And it should seal properly. So it's cheap. Just do it. And it looks like it's done dripping, so I'll take and I'll just wipe that excess off. So I always use a torque wrench on these, and in the manual for this Dyna,
it doesn't say anything about what the torque value should be on that. So I refer to the manual on my Street Glide for the oil drain plug, which looks identical, pretty much identical to this, and it's going into aluminum, same thing. So they call out 14 to 21 foot-pounds. So I'm just gonna go with 15 foot-pounds and torque it. That's all you need. Oil filter should have drained a fair amount, although this one doesn't look like it did. So it's pretty chilly out today, so that oil might still be a little thick, but this little tray actually does a pretty good job at keeping the oil from getting all over the front of the engine and the front engine mount, where it's kind of a pain to get it cleaned out. It's a little bit of a pain to use that, but it saves you a lot of trouble later. Now I'm going to pull this out of here. Give that face, or the filter, a quick wipe. And also that helps ensure that the gasket didn't stick to it. And as the book says, you put the filter on, when you turn it on and the gasket makes contact with the case of the engine, you're supposed to tighten it another quarter to a half a turn hand tight. And it's really hard to get your hand in here to get around it, to get a good grip on it. Still gonna use my wrench and just give it a little bit, like a quarter of a turn. That should be plenty. And then just wipe your fingerprints off. Make sure everything's clean. And I did dribble, looks like one drop down the front, so I like to keep it clean. One other thing you should check when you're doing an oil change on an Evo Big Twin is the lifter pre-screener, and it's in this forward screw. There's some large screws. There's one that's kind of tucked away back here. And you got this one, and then you got this one here. It's on the forward side. And it takes this rather large, straight, looks like a straight screwdriver, but it's a socket setup. I forget the name of it, but I'll put it on the film. Anyway, you want to loosen that up and pull that out. And inside there, you're going to find a spring and a very fine filter. And you'll want to pull that filter and spring out and inspect it for any sort of metal debris, flakes, or anything like that. So there's the spring. It's pretty small. And then you can just take your needle nose and just grab the end of this tiny filter. And you can see it's not much to it. It's very fine. And you can inspect this at any time. If you think something's weird going on with the engine or different noises, you can always check this and look for any metal. And it'll at least help determine if there's something going bad. But just take this and clean it out with a little brake cleaner or solvent of some kind. Clean it up, blow it out, and put it back in. So as you can see, it cleaned up pretty nice. You can see right through it. I don't know how many microns that is, but it's pretty fine. Yeah, just put it back in there. Put your spring around it. Replace that O-ring too. Now that the oil's been drained, plug's been put back in with a new seal, oil filter's been changed, new filter's put on. I'm gonna go ahead and put oil in this. The book calls out 3 quarts if you drain the oil and change the filter. So I'm gonna start out with 2. Once I got 2 in there, I'm gonna start it up. And now I'll add that last quart. All right, oil change should be done. It's topped off. And pick up our tools. I think the last thing I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna put some stay-bale in there because I topped off the tank, but I'm gonna put some of this enzyme fuel treatment stuff in there. It's supposed to be good for stabilizing your fuel. I'm gonna put some of that in there and take it for a short ride to circulate the fuel through the carburetor and all that. And then I'll give one last check of the oil level and we'll put it away for the winter. Do that. Now, the last thing I like to do before I put it away for the winter is drain what's left in the float bowl on the bottom of the carburetor. And you can get to that drain in between the cylinders. Just open her up. And you should see the last of it draining out. Once the fuel quits dripping, I go ahead and I close that valve. You don't have to go too tight on this either. Just nice and snug is all it needs to be, just snug. So that's pretty much all I do to winterize the bike. The last thing I'll do is, when I really know that I'm done, is I'll pull the battery out and I'll take it inside the house, and I got a place in the basement where I put them, and I keep a battery tender on there once in a while. I don't leave the battery tenders on. I know the battery tenders are getting better, but some of the older ones in the past used to just constantly put like 2 amps of trickle charge in there, and all it would do is overcharge and slowly cook the battery. So I will typically just leave the battery alone, and maybe every couple weeks I'll go down there and put it on for a few hours or something, but I don't like to just leave it sit on the charger. But anyway, that's it. So just to review, we've topped off the fuel, put the stay bale in there, and ran it around the block, and got the fuel to circulate through. We shut the fuel off, ran the carburetor dry, ran the accelerator pump dry, and then drained the bowl. And we, again, changed the oil, and we'll pull the battery, made sure the tires are up on air. It's good to check those too during the winter, and it's not a bad idea to roll the bike once in a while because it's a lot of weight sitting on those tires. And, you know, over winter time, it's nice to keep them from getting flat spotted. Definitely make sure that they always have air. Don't let them go flat if they have a slow leak of some sort. So if you have the ability to put it up on something and get the wheels off the ground, that's even better yet. I don't have that ability. I have one jack, so I could pick one of these bikes and it'd probably be one of those two because that's really difficult to jack up. The way the bottom of the bike is, there's really no good place to jack that bike up. Both of those have really nice frame rails and it's really easy to get them up off the ground. But anyway, that's all I'm going to do to that bike. Topped it off with fuel. Change the oil. I'll pull the battery later and it'll be good to go in the spring. So, yeah.